So I'm excited to show you these brand new sets from Rockwell Art Supplies. These are their Charm Set 1 and 2 self-evolving mineral watercolors. And one thing I love about Rockwell, the reason I reach for these paints is the self-evolving qualities of these beautiful watercolor paints. If you look inside the lid, also on the back of the box, these are little 8mm tubes. You can see a look at some of the breakdown of the way the colors kind of play out as they flow across the paper. With these self-evolving colors, that's why we're here. That's what I want to see happen when I play with these paints. I want to watch them separate, granulate, create these beautiful, complex, multiple colors on the page. So we're just going to play with a couple of these hues and take a look and see what they do. I'm not going to show you all 12 in these two sets, but get enough to give you an idea of how to get to know these paints and how to use them. This is the color called Elf Wings. And the first thing I want to do is just get my paper, get some moisture on my paper so I can start to see that color flow. Elf Wings is the color I was most interested at looking at because it's got this beautiful rich dark, and then I could see in the sample there was some undertones of pink. So you can see it's going down as kind of a brown. I would call this a reddish brown. And whenever I'm describing a brown, I always like to talk about whether it's warm or cool and start to notice those different properties, because brown is made up of all three primary colors. It's going to have a warmth or coolness to it. It's going to have some complexity as with that color balance. And you can see already these colors starting to move in the wet wash. What I'm noticing is there's actually a little hint of almost a lavender in this pool here. We're seeing some peach radiating out, and just some lovely, lovely, lovely movement happening. We're just going to create a beautiful shape here and let it kind of move on the page. With any colors that want to separate, granulate, move on the paper, I don't want to spend too much time fiddling with my brush. I want to put those colors down and let the water do the work. So we're just going to add some more liquid here, and then invite some gravity to kind of come and play. And you can see by the reflection, I could complain about the reflection, or I could use it as an opportunity to show you how much water I have on the paper. You can see how moist that is. Most of the time when I'm working with this much water, I'm going to move it around a little bit perhaps, but at some point I'm going to let it roll off the page. I don't usually like to have puddles sitting in the middle of my paper, so I almost always tilt my painting surface just a little bit to get gravity involved. If your water is pooling in the middle of your page, that's where you're going to see watermarks start to happen and get those big buckles and blooms that can occur. Let's use this a little rivulet of moisture to add a little bit more color there. I'm really tempted to believe with my self-evolving watercolors, the other set that I have from Rockwell, I'm really tempted to believe that it's better to use these fresh from the tube than to squeeze them out into your palette and let them dry. And while I have squeezed out color and let it dry on my palette, and they do re-wet, you're just going to get a richer saturation of color if you're using it straight from the tube. Notice as I've been talking, the color has continued to evolve. We're seeing a beautiful, beautiful lilac kind of lavender color underneath that rich red-brown, and I'm excited about that. Can you imagine a paint that from the tube has both orange and blue, those beautiful complementary colors, and we start to see those revealed? It's just really, really pretty. So we're going to let Elf Wings kind of do its thing here. And this is this is a really good meditation in paint if you want to slow down and kind of fall in love with watercolor all over again. work with some wet paper like this and just spend time watching. I could stare at this little movement path of water for a very long time. It's just kind of lingering there. It's so pretty. I can coax it to move even a bit more. Just that little dance of pigment and water. It's really, really enjoyable. Okay, we're going to choose a color from set number 2, and there's several really beautiful ones here. Lover Tears has a shimmering quality to it, a little bit of iridescence. And but I'm kind of drawn to this one, Poseidon. Let's try that one out. Maybe we'll channel some ocean waves or something with this next little study. One color on, I'm using a full sheet of paper. This is movement and energy you're not going to get if you're just doing little square swatches. This really gives me the chance to get to know a color, watch the way it moves, and to take my time. Anytime I invite a new color into my palette, into my process, I really want to use it a lot and get to know it in different mixtures with different other colors kind of alongside of it. It's important to me to see how color really performs and get an instinct almost for that color. And so I'm just gently pulling it across the page. I really like a diagonal when I'm doing these little abstract studies. I want areas of rich, pure color, and then areas of diluted color as well. I might even, I want some hard edges and some soft edges. I like to think about hide and seek edges, so anywhere the edge is crisp, I come back and I might just break it up with a little bit of movement here and there. That edge gets to come and go then. Now the sample on the box showed almost a black, which I'm not seeing at this point. Let's just give it the chance to do some more evolving. There's a really beautiful color mixture right over here though. I'm actually I think I'm gonna try to fill this whole corner. We've got lots of color, we might as well. If we're channeling ocean waves, if that's what I'm being inspired by, I might as well throw down lots of color. A little bit of spatter, pure pigment, and then water. You don't always have to spray it first. And then let's just let some gravity happen. So what this is separating into, I would say, is more greens and blues. And what happens with these self-evolving colors is that what I tend to see is that some of the pigment in the mixture is a heavier pigment. It's a little bit, it's going to sink into your paper and just settle into the texture of your paper just a little bit faster. That's why I like using 100% cotton paper with that cold press texture. Rough, of course, is going to do that as well. You're going to get a different effect if you're working with hot press. And some of the lighter pigments, they're the ones that are going to float on the pool of water if you have a lot of water. They're the ones that are going to disperse maybe more easily and move across the paper. And so then as those two different contrasts between the pigment qualities, as that happens, we start to see those differing colors start to come out. So I'm a little bit... I'm not really seeing that rich dark that they're showing in their sample. And of course, I think it's this one on the front too. So I'm not seeing those almost black pigments that they're showing there. But I am seeing a really beautiful range of blue to that rich kind of jade green, which I'm really liking. And I think as this dries, I'm actually seeing some really fine particles up here that could be kind of what comes across as black in their sample. And so as that continues to evolve, we might see just a little bit more there in terms of that darker pigment texture. And that's where, you know, the moisture, it just, the colors keep evolving. We get a different effect as time passes. That's another reason I don't use a blow dryer. I like to allow the pigment the chance to evolve. And I could see this being a beautiful pairing with maybe a phthalo blue or phthalo turquoise to create those beautiful, rich water effects. Let's come back and take a look at both of these washes after they've dried. And while we're waiting, we'll talk a little bit about the Rockwell paints themselves. I've been using Rockwell watercolor paints for about a year now, and I'm really liking the self-evolving properties of these colors. The non-self-evolving colors actually are rich and beautiful, and I'm quite happy to choose those for my paintings. But I love being inspired by color. Color tends to be a way that I fall in love with watercolor all over again. My paintings get exciting and interesting when I'm trying out color and watching those beautiful complex mixes flow. And that's why I'm excited about these charm sets. There are 6 colors in each set, and they are 8 milliliter tubes. And you know, each color is going to have those unique qualities that cause it to separate, granulate, and create complex flows of washes of color that you can mix with your own pigments. You know, you'll have probably noticed when you're mixing color, personally there's an orange and a blue that I like to combine that will separate as they dry in the wash. And so I can make some mixes that separate like that, but it's really nice to be able to squeeze something out straight from the tube and get that effect pretty reliably all the time. These are unpredictable colors. You are going to see that they do their best work when you're working with lots of water and letting them flow. And so you want to, if you're an artist who likes a lot of control, you might be struggling to see some of these beautiful separating results. Use a little more water, splash some paint around, and you'll start to see that granulation and separation that we're seeing on the back of the box. Rockwell watercolors are available on their website. Rockwell watercolors remind me to be playful, and that's really why I like them and why I reach for them. Let's just take a look at Elf Wings as it's had a chance to dry. We can look at it a little bit up close. You can see how much it separates, that beautiful blue and peachy color that give us that lovely kind of violety brown together. It's quite beautiful. Let's also look at Poseidon. This is that beautiful blue-green, and you can see how textural the granulation is in this color. Again, I'm not seeing the black pigments, although it's very dark where the two hues stay mixed together, and really quite a beautiful, rich green and blue combination. I don't know if I would be able to describe that green on its own. It's not one that I have in my palette. If you're interested in knowing precisely what the colors are in the charm sets, what pigments they're made up of, all of that information is available from Rockwell, and I would encourage you to go check those out, and you can track down even pigment names and so forth so that you know exactly what's in there.